Counsel was in there as well and told us what the decision said. And you see the president's initial reaction in his tweet. He said, "We'll see you in court, and the nation's safety is at risk." That's what this has always been about from the beginning, Martha, keeping the country safe. It's not just a promise he made as a candidate, it's his duty and responsibility as President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief. And in fact, he has broad authority to do that under the statute. This ruling does not affect the merits at all. It is an interim ruling, and we are fully confident that now that we will get our day in court and have an opportunity to argue this on the merits, that we will prevail.
So which court?
Well, we'll have to see what happens in those terms. I haven't read the full opinion. I haven't been fully briefed by counsel on that particular point. But we do feel that if you read the statute, and the president himself took the unusual and I thought very remarkable and heartening step just yesterday and read the entire statute, read the statute, the first page of the statute aloud to the sheriff's meeting, the county's meeting that he addressed yesterday here in Washington, and then made the point that if you read the statute, which had nothing to do with today's interim ruling in the Ninth Circuit, that you see very quickly that a president has great authority to protect the national interest and protect the security. Let's go back to what his travel executive order really did and what it did not do. It was narrowly prescribed to the 7 countries that were first put forth by President Obama and the Congress, and it's temporary. It really is, let's get some better vetting, let's get some, quote, special screening in those countries, from those with foreign nationals from those countries that had been previously identified, and on a temporary basis. All right. And so if we can argue that on the merits, and people really look at that statute and not just the TRO,
he's referring
we'll
to
get a different result.
The 1952 statute,
right,
which gives the president broad authority when he sees a national security concern to ban people, whether they be from a country, a group of countries. And many believe, and many of the legal experts that we've spoken to here really did not expect this decision to go the way it did in the Ninth Circuit, even though it is a very liberal court. They felt that, based on what was instructed, that they wouldn't stand up. However, we saw that argument go very political very quickly when we listened to that audio, Kellyanne, that night. So one of the choices is the Supreme Court. And some have suggested, including Judge Napolitano, that all of these, because there's 50-something courts that are all bringing these cases, it's not just the one in Washington State and Minneapolis or across the country, that the Supreme Court could gather them all together and give a decision based on that. Is that something that you think the White House would like? Does the president want this to go to the Supreme Court? Does he feel confident about that?
I can't comment on that tonight, Martha. I can tell you I haven't practiced law in many years, happily so. So I won't give my opinion on that, and I certainly won't speak on that at the moment. He will be conferring with the lawyers and make that decision, I'm sure. But you raised a very important point for your audience to know, which is there are different options here. And I heard what was said earlier about the importance of the Supreme Court, always important. But now with the nomination of Judge Gorsuch, imminently being taken up by the Senate, we have our eye on that as well. We are hopeful that those 10 or 12 Democrats that voted to confirm Judge Gorsuch 10 or almost 11 years ago will do the right thing here and give him a full, fair hearing so that we can have a complete Supreme Court. But that is not a comment on where this case is headed. Judicial-wise, it's just a comment. I'm commenting on our confidence that we have an excellent case when it comes to the actual merits. And the merits were not litigated, the merits were not decided upon today in the Ninth Circuit.
With regard to Judge Gorsuch, he's been much in the news over the past couple of days and gone back and forth on some of these underlying issues about what he said, and it was seen essentially as a dig at what the president had said about these judges who are involved in this case. I know that the White House has said, or the president said himself, that he was misrepresented. But several sources said that no, that's exactly what he meant. He meant that the president's comments were disheartening to him. Did the president speak directly with Judge Gorsuch and ask him what he meant by that?
I won't comment on private conversations between the president and other people.
So where did the president gather that information from then?
But I will tell you that they support each other. That's very clear to us. The president has full confidence in his Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch. We're happy that he's up there talking to the different senators and getting acclimated to the process of Capitol Hill. At the same time, we know that members of the judiciary have a right to speak out. But the president also has a right to speak out. That's a time-honored tradition. Our branches of government are independent and equal. But there's nothing here that's negative insofar as the judge is free to speak his mind. In fact, I would say two things to your audience tonight, Martha. Number one is that during the confirmation hearings of cabinet appointees, President Trump made very clear that he respects the men and women to speak their mind and to offer their own opinions under oath in those particular hearings. Number two, people really didn't get as much in a lather when President Obama himself chided the United States Supreme Court right in front of them as his guest at the State of the Union, immediately following the Citizens United decision. I mean, really just chided. I remember Justice Alito literally nodding his head because it was such an inappropriate way to reprimand Supreme Court justices at the State of the Union. So this is something that is done on occasion, but I think that we should look at the mutual respect these two men have for each other, President Trump and Judge Gorsuch, and to recognize that on a list of 21 highly qualified men and women, Judge Gorsuch is the one that President Trump himself chose to be his first nominee, and that speaks for itself.
All right, so he stands by his nomination 100%.
Absolutely.
That's the way I'm taking that. And Judge Gorsuch wants very much to continue to be the appointee by President Trump, correct?
I haven't heard otherwise. I have no reason to believe otherwise.
All right. You know, in terms of the Supreme Court decision, I know that the president sat down today with a bipartisan group at the White House of moderate senators who he's hoping will help to push this Gorsuch nomination through. How confident are you that you are going to get some Democratic support for him?
Well, I saw one or two of those senators as they were here in the White House, and we're very confident that they're listening to the constituents back at home. If you're Senator Manchin in West Virginia, if you're Senator Joe Donnelly in Indiana, if you're Senator Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, certainly you're hearing from the president, but you're really hearing from the residents and the voters in your own state. The states that President Trump and Vice President Pence carried handily, and states where people believe in the rule of law, believe in at least giving this man a full and fair hearing so that he can be voted up or down in a way that is decidedly apolitical. I mean, look at what just happened to Betsy DeVos, our new Secretary of Education. Jeff Sessions, our new Attorney General, went to a swearing in today. A very big moment, I think, for President Trump. And it's just remarkable to me that not a single Democrat voted for them. I think in the case of Senator Sessions, one Democrat voted for him. But it's just, we can have 5, 6, 7 who are listening to their constituents and saying, I'm going to do the right thing here and give the president the deference and the respect that he deserves to fill his cabinet as he'd like. So we hope that the same politics that seem to have applied in these all-nighters that the Democratic Senate pulled over this week will not necessarily apply to Judge Gorsuch, and that folks will at least do the right thing and hear him through. Look at his academic credentials. Look at his judicial record, his judicial temperament. Read those opinions, as President Trump, President-elect Trump, and his team had done when they were deciding whom to appoint to this very, very important position. So we would just ask for fairness and openness. And
Attorney General Sessions voted for Eric Holder because he wanted the president to have the attorney general that he wanted when it was when the shoe was on the other foot. And I know that you're hoping that the same thing will happen. Kellyanne, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about what happened this morning with your comment about doing a free commercial and encouraging people to buy Ivanka Trump's products. It got a lot of pushback, and Sean Spicer spoke about it at the press briefing today and said that you had been counseled on the matter and that he had nothing more to say. How were you counseled?
I'm not going to comment on that, Martha. I actually had nothing more to say about it.
What about the letter that has come from Chaffetz and Cummings in the House that has gone to the Government Ethics Board? And they say that they consider that to be a very serious, potentially a serious violation of the Government Ethics Code.
We're aware of that letter, and we're reviewing that internally. I'm just really happy that I spent an awful lot of time with the President of the United States this afternoon, and that he supports me 100%.
So you spoke about that matter, and he is not, doesn't have any intention to suspend you?
We spoke about a range of matters, and he supports me 100%. In fact, it was a very heartening moment. All I can say to America's women is, at some point in your life, you ought to have a boss who treated me the way that the President of the United States treated me today.
Kellyanne Conway, a lot to talk about tonight. We thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Martha.
All right, so here now with more on the Ninth Circuit.